Yeah. Hi, Chris. You got here right on time. Okay. So, did everybody complete the assignment? Yeah. What do you guys think of the assignment? Do you find it challenging? Yeah. Were you able to find all different 25 solutions? You have to give it some thought, don't you? But you can do it. How long did it take you? Yeah. I can't wait to look at them. Did anybody use a ruler? Interesting. It's like this kind of assignments always tell me a lot about your personality. Actually, it's pretty fascinating. Okay, so we'll turn them in here in a minute. But I want to go into the second assignment. So, which is the compositions. So let's look at the assignment first, and then we'll go over there. Okay, so you're gonna and in another piece of paper. It doesn't matter what kind of piece of paper. It can just be a regular white piece of paper. You don't have to use. I'm gonna go over the assignment first. It's probably not gonna make sense, and then I'll promise you it'll make sense. So you're gonna draw in literally in one piece of paper. You can do all six. You're gonna draw six separate compositions, and you are going to using line, any type of line. Okay, like straight line. Good morning. Diagonal line. You can use a circle. You're gonna communicate. You're gonna think about what the word public means, and you're gonna draw that out. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're gonna do that for private, organic, chaos, man-made, and order. So I had a student. She got pretty clever because we know the meaning of those words. I mean, those are pretty common words. But what she did, knowing what she knew about the words, she went to the dictionary and she found the words and she looked like the official meaning of each one of those words. Then what she did, she went ahead and drew out what meant public for her. As an example, like, and I'll give you an example for like chaos. The one thing that I think about it is the traffic jam in New York City. We've all seen that picture, right? With the yellow taxis. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. This is what I think of when I see that word. Immediately I go here. And if you ever been to New York City, it's literally just like that. It's a gridlock, and you just don't move, especially at certain times of the day. So obviously, you're not going to draw a city with a bunch of taxis. But maybe what you draw maybe is like a couple of lines that create that X, and you create some lines that cause tension to communicate that chaos idea. I don't want to see cute little drawings. I don't want you to, at the beginning of doing these assignments, some people, it's not easy, but it's not impossible either. You just have to give it some thought. Immediately want to draw a building or a flower or people or cars. That's not what you want to do. What you're going to do, you're going to communicate geometrically. So you're going to give people the perception of that. It's not 100% interpretation. You're giving up. So when somebody looks at that drawing, like, maybe it reminds me of that great lock in New York City, but maybe you think of chaos, and it like reminds you, like, one of the things that I can get over, COVID or not, is the amount of people that go to football games. I mean, it has nothing to do with the pandemic. It's always been. I mean, what were they last weekend? 70,000 people in one stadium, right? And they just look like a bunch of dots to me, that just like gives me anxiety because maybe because it's like when you become a parent and obviously your kid's always with you, like the biggest fear it would be like losing her in an area like that, right? So you don't even see heads, you just see little dots, right, of like different colors. I mean, I think the energy is super awesome, but it's like, but I just don't want to be there. Good morning. So what you so you the definition of chaos for me is different of what it is for you. Okay, maybe you're really organized. Okay, and you cannot like I can have my house organized, but my desk where I work is complete chaos. Right? So there's different things that remind you of what that means. What public could be that what I said like that business stadium, right? Or it could be different things. It could be I don't know, maybe in Alaska like a family of penguins. So think about what private is also. Maybe it's like a lot of creative people, and I don't know, I'm definitely like this. I'm social, but there's times when I'm creative, I want to be by myself. And they said I'm gonna close the door, right? And to me, that's private, like to be completely separated from everybody else. Or I can be in a crowded room and just people watch, and I could be sitting there, but I feel like I'm by myself and go in my own privacy, and I'm completely okay with it. So kind of think about those moments for you. Man-made. What does that? What does that? Like if I were going to tell you, okay, I want you to draw a car. Tell me that a car is man-made without drawing a car. You're giving the perception of that, and then order. Think about that organization, right? Maybe it's a bunch of items in line because you can have like people are like how many times have you gone out to like let's say the food court at the mall and there's more than one line and you just don't know which line to get on. Right, so it looks like it's in order but it's really not because you could be in a completely different line and you may not even know it. Does that make sense? So it's really, I see you guys are already thinking about it. So it's just line work. So if you find yourself trying to draw a picture of an object, stop. Because I don't want to see it. I know it's hard. Sometimes you just have to give it thought because basically, so that's what graphic design is. It's one of the things that people also like to call it is a language of vision. Because you want to spark a thought without being obvious sometimes. So this literally what it is. So you just grab a pencil. You can do it with a pencil. You can do it with a Sharpie. You draw, just literally just draw your little doodle, whatever I'm gonna call it a doodle, and then you put public underneath. And then what we're gonna do. I believe this is due next Monday. So when you bring it in, we're gonna put it on the table, and then we're gonna look at what everybody has done. What's that? Yes. Say that again.
Wouldn't it be due Tuesday instead of Monday?
I can't hear you.
Wouldn't that be due Tuesday instead of Monday?
Thank you. Yes. I get my days confused, but you know what I mean.
We understand what you meant, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So you bring it Tuesday morning. I'll update that. So, okay. So let's get into this. So I included this. I'm not gonna go over this entire sheet, but it's called the language of vision, and it's really, really, it's really interesting. So basically, it discusses. It discusses a bit. Whoops. Hold on 1 second. There it is. How culture and how over time, some things are literally influenced by culture, and I think we can all we can all kind of think of, when we were talking, I was talking to my other class yesterday, and when we talk my typography class, like as an example, when we think of Nike, right? That's a brand that's been, I don't even know how many years it's been around, or Coca-Cola. And then overall, it's been influenced by many changes, but the brand stays the same. That at this point, those type of brands, they really can do anything, and their branding is recognizable, right? As long as Coca-Cola keeps it in that red, okay. Do you notice that they're not gonna put? I mean, that's their color. If they were gonna come out and put a green, that would just definitely like it will shift things, and it takes a long time for people to actually adjust to that new look. So basically, some things are obvious and some things are not so obvious. So I'm not gonna read over this. I'm gonna let you guys do that on your own. However, what I'm gonna show you is like this right here. Okay, so basically, Arnheim, which was one of the guys that came up with like the Gestalt principles, he said a visual concept is a mental image of an object that is built out of purely visual experiences from many angles in a humorous tone. So these two circles, if I, obviously they can be anything to you, right? Obviously you can see what it says right there, but it could be a tire, right? Like those old school tires in the 50s with the white line. That's what it reminds. But if I tell you, did you see a Mexican wearing a sombrero? Would you see it?
Yeah,
Obviously, it's not based entirely the interpretation. It's not there, but culturally, you've been conditioned because you've like movies and books and things that you've seen, and you're like, oh, I can totally see it, right? Because for so long we always think like, the guy underneath that huge, massive hat. So this is an example, just like basically on your going back to your assignment. See how the simplicity, how it is. You don't have to say what it is, but you can just. There's so many different ideas. A person can see so many different things by looking at that. Would you agree or disagree? And it says here, but from movies, television, and books, a big mustache, a big poncho, leather boots. You get that. You've seen it because you've seen it for so long. You're like, I totally get this. Okay. Now it's like look at this. Look at these triangles. Basically, what they're saying is like one is stable. It looks to you, and then the other one doesn't look very unstable. But if you look at it, yeah, you see two triangles, but it could be completely something else. It could be a road in between two buildings. I mean, this is a stretch, but I think about with all the shortages that are happening right now in the country, maybe it's the Suez Canal, right? Where like the boats go through. I mean, you see where I'm going with this? There's so many different things that you can see. Let me move down here. Okay, so look at these examples right here. This is an example of stability. Let me zoom in a little bit more in here. Would you agree with the descriptions here? Stability, threat, and warmth. And look at warmth. That simplicity. We've seen that before. It takes you back. Do you remember, like back when you were like in kindergarten or the first grade, that the teacher said, "Oh, draw a picture of your house, and you put the sun, and it's like, and how would you make that sun look warm, right?" A lot of times you kind of did some lines like that, without knowing what you were doing, but you gave the idea that it was radiating heat. right? Or what about the thread?
Or points.
Yeah, it
Yes.
follows a lot of like, if you were to take, I think it was art appreciation. It tells you how different lines, like even like a rectangle, like if it's horizontal, it represents more like that peace factor. It's calm. It's almost like the horizon. And then if it were to be upright, your brain thinks like it's strength. It's upright. It's stronger. And then whenever you see like a round object, it's usually we think of it, we associate it with soft, so it's more welcoming, and then sharper, it's more like geometric shapes, so it's just a little bit more rougher, a little bit more threatful, you know?
Exactly. And you see, like you can feel the tension in here. Looking at this, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I can definitely feel there. You know, when you walk into a room and two people are not getting along, and you can just feel it in the air. Even if there's no drama, even if there's no conflict, you can just feel the tension between those two people. Same thing in this picture. Every time I look at this picture, it gives me the perception of just this tension on it. Now, what about stability? I mean, you could say those are a bunch of rectangles, but you could also see a skyline.
I see a factory.
What do you see?
I see a factory.
See, I mean, it is what your eye. There's so many definitions of it, and kind of like what you were saying back with the reference back to art, right? And that's another reason why I tell my students, you know, if you, I know it's not in the curriculum, but if you can take a fine arts class, it will make you that much more stronger as a designer.
It makes you see like the little things, for sure.
It, exactly, especially you know when you did that. If anybody has taken drawing, when you did that perspective, the perspective drawing, and then you created a whole city out of the point. It's it gives you a completely different. You had no idea what you were creating from the moment you had a little bit of an idea, but you had no idea what it was going to look like. It's what you build out. So this is a really interesting article, and I did include it in your assignment. So when you open it, you can click on here, and I recommend that you go back and take a look at that. Now, with the Gestalt, a lot of times what we say is that it's how you perceive that information, right? Sometimes you have to be really obvious, but this is a good example would be designing a book cover. We talk in my Photoshop class about designing an LP cover. So if you would, and I like to bring about that example because when you're this, let's say that there's an artist and you know LPs are hot right now, so you have to get to know that artist, right? You have to get to know. You have to listen to all of the songs that are gonna go in that album. You have, you know, obviously sometimes we know that let's say somebody like the I don't know, like the Rolling Stones, they could have a young audience following them because they've been around for so long, but the majority of their audience is probably older, I would think, at this point, right? I mean, that's just how it is. Unless some younger people have appreciation for that type of rock and roll, but when you say you have to narrow it down to like who the target audience is, who you have to interview them and say what was going through your mind when you came up with this album? What inspired it? Okay, what experiences in your life? Like, are these all original songs? Sure, I wrote them all. Where do you get the idea from it? Oh, when I was little, blah 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 blah. Or you know, it's like, or me and my brother didn't get along, or I lost somebody in the family. So you have to listen to all of that and really kind of think about it. It's not easy. How would you communicate that on a cover of an album? So if you think about it, and without giving everything away, of course, right? Then also, what you do, people are gonna the perception of what people get from that cover is going to be probably different because some people are going to relate to it differently. So the interpretation is a little bit different for everybody. So that's going to, one of the things that I like about this career, about graphic design, is because, like I said before, you can't, it's like in accounting, I'm not knocking the profession by any means, of course, but you're giving a set of numbers and it's very repetitive, right? You're just like literally doing numbers every single day. And I know some things are complicated and people have to be creative in every career too, especially if they're doing taxes, right? But what I like about graphic design is like every single day is different. So I do think that you become, in some ways, you have to have empathy. You have to have kindness, because there's so many. You're catering towards so many different people. So when I was at an Omnicom agency, we were pitching the this at the time it was called the Orto Evra. It was a birth control patch, and we won the pitch, and we were really excited about it, and we did, and that was the only time in my career that I've ever had a client say, we want to use it just as you guys presented it. I was blown away, because usually you get really creative on the pitch, but then you have all these other rules you have to follow, so things ended up looking different, even though you created one. And what was interesting was, so the idea was 4 girls, kind of like the Sex and the City type, when one of them is that it's just really outgoing, the other one's shy, I mean, one's career, very different, relating to, obviously, because that birth control obviously talks so much, almost every woman, right? So there was a girl that had a really pretty shirt, and she was the most conservative of the 4, and it was a button-down shirt, long sleeve, okay? Her hair was back in a bun, and it was dark, and I put her, when I was laying out the ad, I put like a little piece of red, kind of like a curtain, on the side of the ad. So then what we did, we sent these out to the focus group to see how they were going to be received. And we sent them to Miami and LA and Houston. And it was fascinating. Like that little piece of red fabric that was a curtain. Obviously, I never got that. And people in the agency didn't get that. But the people said that it gave them the impression that she was kind of slutty. That was the word that they used. Now let me remind you, the shirt was buttoned up to here, collar. I mean, very much Ann Taylor type of thing. I mean, you could tell that. I mean, there was no skin showing, and so we took that off and we put some flowers instead of that. Changed the game. I would have never seen it. I don't know where that came from. I mean, like, also, I'm Hispanic as well, and I never saw that. But they pretty much, and that was pretty much the same thing that was said in all those 3 different cities. Isn't that fascinating? So sometimes you just don't really know. I mean, when brands have the money of doing focus groups, it's actually a really good idea. If they don't have the money of doing focus groups, and sometimes I show things to friends that are not knowing what I'm doing, just to kind of get their feedback, because you want to be in line with everything else. Okay, so when we move down here, so here's also that if you look at this, you see it as one group. Yes or no? When you look at these, will you see it as 2 groups?
Yes.
And you almost look for differences between them, do you? You don't see this as one group. How about, how many triangles do you see here? How many?
2. No, 3.
But in reality, there's no triangles. You see it? Because like none of these lines actually come together. They are, but they're not. But you pretty much you clearly see the white triangle by the way that this is done, right?
They're like implied lines.
Exactly. It gives you the perception of it. I mean, obviously that was the purpose of that. Paul Rand. Have you ever heard of Paul Rand? Paul Rand designed. I want to say, I'm not sure that maybe he did the Apple logo. I want to say he did. I know he did Adidas. He did NBC. He did the FedEx logo. He did the UPS logo. If you Google him and see what he's done, his conceptual skills when it comes to logo design were incredible, because these are brands that have been around for a very, very long time. They've evolved over time. Like here's look, do you see the peacock in here? Obviously, you're used to seeing this brand. Do we all agree that we clearly see a peacock in there?
That's supposed to be a peacock.
Yeah.
I did not know.
You
that.
don't see it?
No, bro.
There's
I've
the-
never. I thought it was like half of a flower or something.
I always thought it was a rainbow.
That's so crazy.
I've never seen it like zoomed in like
Yeah,
that, so I
I've
didn't see the little part missing on the purple.
Really?
No,
I
you
just saw
can't
like
see that
all
on
the-
TV.
Yeah, 'cause you always see it like really small.
Right.
It's
Dude,
interesting.
that's crazy.
That is
No
interesting.
way, you're lying. Did you edit
You
that?
never. Okay. Who saw the peacock before I said that?
Nobody.
Okay.
You're lying. Put your hands up. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You told me whenever that came up on the TV, that's a peacock.
Do you see it now?
I see it now, yeah. But I never saw that little beak on the front.
Because we become so acclimated to just look at. But you know that's NBC, right?
Yes.
Immediately, even if because your mind becomes so acclimated towards looking at something. I know. I think this is one of the best logos by the way, because now they did, you know how everybody's doing like their own streaming watching channels, paying subscription, which is driving me crazy, right? Because everybody has one now. They actually have one now called Peacock.
Gotcha.
And and if you look at it,
Have you seen that little TikTok trend where the girl redesigns the people's logos for fun? And
no, I
some
don't-
logos actually like change the
Really?
Just on TikTok, yeah. That was funny. But she like did them horrible. And the company thought it was funny, so it's getting a lot of attention.
I don't-
What did McDonald's like change
Yeah,
most
that's-
of their branding?
Something like that, yeah. But it's like some real brands actually got like some stuff from her, you know? And she was completely joking around. Like she literally purposefully made them ugly to get the attention, and then actually got some deals.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Crazy.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this. This is our online streaming service. I mean, honestly, you can tell it's NBC because of the dots, but when you come back to like logo design, this is a much better brand. You'll tie the two together, of course, right? But if you think, I mean, look at the execution of this. It doesn't get beat. So a lot of people are just, that's all they do. They're just logo designers because their conceptual skills are so advanced in some ways. So they just, they just get it. They like immediately communicate it. It's like riding a bike. I went to college with a guy, one of our friends named Sean. I mean, he could just whip out logos like it was that. I mean, it was amazing. And they were so good because the purpose of a logo is that you create some kind of icon. That icon would be remember. And you've seen the Apple. The Apple has come a long way. I mean, obviously, it had the colors back in the day. You can, let's look at this. Let's see here. Here it is.
That's how it started.
I mean, it started here. I mean, look how many years he was like this. I wasn't around, I mean, maybe Rudy will remember. I wasn't that around the time that Steve Jobs came back? 98, 97, 98?
Yeah, I think it was 90s.
Huh?
I think it was in the 90s.
Yeah. I think, yeah, that's why it became here, because it was the graphite. Have you guys seen the commercial with the color IMAX? And then it became this, and then it became, and this is where we are right now, and it's a chrome version. So you can see like little small changes, but the brand's still the same. You can still recognize it, that it became, I mean, this is, I mean, it says Apple on here, but I know it's an Apple tree, but it's just way too much. There's probably somebody did it like a Word, you know, it's like, those are my favorite clients, the ones that say, oh, I need to have my logo in Illustrator. Okay, so why don't you build it Word? You know it's going to be a bad logo. And they're so proud of it too. So you get the idea of where I'm going with the assignment? Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I really want you to think about it, and then obviously you have a week to complete it. I'll change today. Thank you, Chris. And then very basic and simple. Do not overdo it. I had a student last semester. He was a stellar artist, and he wanted to over detail everything. So I was working with him to kind of take some stuff out, you know, because it was just too detailed. It's very simple, kind of like the examples that I showed you. I wanna see that type of simplicity for those 6 solutions. Okay, cool. Okay, so then I want you if you can